What's up, guys? This is part 2 of my husband's currently on vacation with his mistress. If you missed part 1, you can find it in the description below or the pinned comment. Let's get right into it. Before the move, my soon-to-be ex and I had one last argument. But in this argument, a big piece of information was leaked on his behalf. He demanded to know why we failed as partners. I'm not sure why he's asking me why we failed, as if he is the one that did not cheat. I gave him the same reasoning I gave him months ago when we talked about this. He said that answer was bullcrap. How can my opinion or insight be bullcrap? Let me explain. My soon-to-be ex and I were great, before kids and responsibilities, but when other people, our children and responsibilities, work, bill, house payments, house upkeep, came into play, things changed. Honestly, he did not like that our honeymoon phase was over. That's what he loves the most, and why his shiny little new relationship is so appealing. He did not like that our money for nights out now went to plumbers, school clothes, and gas bills. Was this another case of being a narcissist and needing all the attention? Perhaps so. Could I have done better to make him a priority? Probably. But then some things else of importance would have been neglected. Perhaps if he would have been helping me carry the load and took more responsibility, that there would be more time for us. I was the parent that went to every school function. I took the kids food shopping with me on Saturday so he could have some relaxed time. I made all the meals, I did the doctor's appointments, called the repairmen, bought the clothing, I cut the coupons, I tended to sick children, gave baths, I made plans to visit his family, etc. Long story short, the list of responsibilities he had was minimal, or close to non-existent. I just always thought we would, more like I would, sacrifice and work now only to relax and enjoy later. Maybe that was my mistake. But I showed my love for him daily and always did for him. I did more so he could do less and enjoy his free time and be happy and relaxed. Because when he was stressed, the whole house was tense. But that's a story for another day. What this conversation did was shed light on what his reasoning for talking to her. The reason I suspected: attention. He confessed she gave him attention where he wanted it. Everything was about him. Sure, that's easy to do when your relationship's simply text messages and phone calls, but what happens when it's real and daily? I asked him what happens when he moves there and starts putting her children first, or her work becomes a priority, or they struggle with bills. You know, real life stuff. He had no answers. I asked what happens when this fantasy long-distance romance becomes a tough daily reality. Again, I don't think he thought that far in advance. Can he stay on his best friend-boyfriend behavior? Can everything stay magical when the world stops revolving around him? Looks like he'll find out soon enough. I understand I'll probably receive criticism for this post. People will say I neglected him so he had no other option but to leave. But let's not look over the fact that he neglected everything in our life, so the slack was mine. This story is not new. Some spouses have been doing this for ages, and what is their reward? The spouse they tried so desperately to give a better life to leaves or cheats. Is this manipulation? Is this me trying so hard to make everything easier for everyone else that I sabotage myself? All I wanted was an equal partner, but that's something that I never got. Next update: mediation meltdown. So after weeks, no, correction, after months, our mediation paperwork's completed. What a relief, or so I thought. While we talked previously and agreed to everything, there was one section we never mentioned which our mediator added. It reads as followed: new partners. Each part agrees that they'll introduce a new partner to the children only if he or she is in a committed relationship for at least X amount of months. Each parent will inform the other party prior to introducing a new partner to the children. While that wasn't something that we discussed, I think that's an important piece of the puzzle. My soon-to-be ex does not think that statement needs to be included in the legal document. His statement was, quote, That's a conversation between you and I that a court or judge has no business being in. Well, I see his point. My point was this. We're divorcing. Nothing can be left to a handshake promise. We could agree to something verbally, and because we both have legal custody, we could just renegotiate on the agreement and deny access to new partners. Having this in black and white protects us both. He swore he wasn't signing it until the portion was removed. But if the mediator included it, then this must be common practice to do in a divorce, so this prompted me to ask, when does she plan to come here and visit? That must be the motivation, right? She must be planning a trip here soon, and he had plans to introduce her to the children. He claims there's no plans for her to visit our area. Well, if that's the case, what's the harm with waiting 3 months? But guys, let me be clear. Everyone listening, my motivation in this is the well-being of my children. Their father has just left. They need to become accustomed to this new way of life, with 2 homes and visiting hours before we complicate things more with a girlfriend or boyfriend. I've also made appointments for them next month. That was the soonest I could get, with a psychologist to help them process this divorce. Now's not the time to make this a little more complex. Every parent wants to nurture and protect their children. His affair partner waited 5 months to introduce him to her children. Why is it not okay for us to wait for them? Next update changes. I had to sit down this past week and really think. What's more important to me, my pride or moving on? I said from the beginning that I want him to be a father, to be involved and active in their lives. So we made some changes last night. After a talk plus an argument followed by more talking, we altered our custody agreement to give him more time with the children. I know from the past 10 years that he's never been an active father. Perhaps now he feels the need to be. Either way, I'm hopeful this decision will be a good one for the boys. Now, I know many of you may say he's undeserving, but I'm making this decision and not regretting it because I know it's just temporary. He'll be moving out in a year or so. Of this, I have no doubt. Once he packs up his belongings and he drives across the country, our arrangement will change. I'm a bit upset the children will become used to having him around, though, only to have him leave in a year. That was a big motivator in my reluctance to agree to this custody change. I've tried to make the best decisions for my boys, and I feel like my soon-to-be ex is just concerned with winning. I also got him to agree to put our new terms and terms for when he leaves, including the altered child support payments in black and white in our mediation paperwork. I think the delay by our mediator to supply the paperwork led to him overthinking and wanting to change the agreement. He agreed in January, but now claims he's never agreed to it. So I guess our mediator just created these terms which we discussed out of thin air. Okay, sure, buddy. I also think his girlfriend chirped in his ear a bit about what he should do. I'm confident he told her what a wonderful and involved father he's been over the years, and I'm sure that prompted her to encourage him for more custody. Little does she know, my soon-to-be ex doesn't even have car seats in his car because he never takes them anywhere. He doesn't know their doctors' names, he doesn't know their quirks, and has zero patience for his own children. But I'm sure he's claimed to be the, quote, father of the year. Maybe the increase in custody will prompt him to move sooner. He took the boys for an overnight last week, and when he dropped them off, he was grumpy. He claimed all he did was cater to them, didn't have time to eat, and barely got any work done all day. Oh, you mean like me every day since you left? He's not prepared, but it's okay, I'm done sheltering him. These are your kids, bro, and now you can see what it takes to take care of them and balance everyday life. Maybe now he'll see why I never had the time or energy to cater to him. Next update, boundaries. Last week was our final mediation meeting. My soon-to-be ex claims that the mediation we had in January was not the final. I was happy that our mediator confirmed in the meeting that January's meeting was the final, and his changes are an addition. Either way, it's done. Mediation completed. Now starts the actual divorce process. I told him I'd like to start on this ASAP, and his response was, I know you want to rush through this, but this takes time and can't be done when all you want to do is rush. So hold on. Let me get this straight. You were the one who cheated for months and has a girlfriend, but me wanting to complete our divorce papers makes me the one that's rushing to end the marriage. No, sir. You've rushed to end it. Actually, you ended it. Now, we're just completing the paperwork, but the marriage was dissolved in September, when you started sending her flowers. Or perhaps in October, when you started flying to her state during a pandemic to have sex. So, pardon me if I'd like to cut the cord legally. You've already served it emotionally. Next update, transparency. This past weekend was Mother's Day. It was a strange day this year, but still oddly more enjoyable than previous years. My soon-to-be ex has been taking the kids on the schedule I created, and so far no issues. He's yet to pay me any child support, but I'll give him until the 15th till I make a stink about it. The boys were with him over the weekend, but he returned them on Sunday so I could spend the day with them. I asked him while he was here if he called his grandmother yet. His grandmother is the only family besides his equally unfaithful father that he speaks to. He told me he spoke to her and that he told her that we separated. I was shocked. This was a big one. I knew it would be hard to tell her and the news would give her a heart attack. He said she was upset and shared some of their conversation with me. He told me he did not tell her why we split, only that we split. While not exactly the whole truth, I was happy to see that he took this tough step. So, fast forward a few hours. His mother calls me. Her and I have a fairly good relationship, but my soon-to-be ex is holding a grudge over things from the past and refuses to speak to her. I'd asked if she heard the news from her mother. She was confused. Well, it turns out it was all a lie. He never told his grandmother. The conversation he said he had was never actually a thing. I speak to his sister as well and find out, after 13 years together, that this, quote, run away with a girl who'll give me more attention is his MO. She told me that before me, he lied to his girlfriend of 4 years that he was going to spend time with his father, but it turns out he went away for the weekend with another girl. Now, ain't that some shit? My lawyer will be serving him divorce papers next week. When I told him for the second time that I was hiring a lawyer to do the papers and did not want us to do them ourselves, he got angry. He accused me of wanting to try something shady. No, sir, you've been shady enough for the both of us. When I reminded him that I've already brought this up to him and that I've been getting quotes from lawyers, he accused me of not being transparent. Yeah, you're kidding, right? He'll always be the victim, never wrong and always right. Next update, the breakdown. My soon-to-be ex had the children this past Friday through Saturday, and then again on Monday through Wednesday. I went to pick them up today after work, and that's when it happened. The breakdown. My soon-to-be ex starts to cry. He lost it. Apparently, for the past 3 days, all our children do was ask to go home. They cried and constantly asked, how much longer do we have to be here? He tries to tell them that this was their home too, but they wouldn't hear it. Now, part of me feels bad. It must be terrible to have your children reject you, but on the flip side, he's never been the parent he is now. He takes them places, plays with them, reads to them, bathes them, etc. I don't think he understands that you just can't flip a switch with these kids and they'll just gravitate towards you. I know he's probably trying, and I appreciate that, but it's too late. I've tried to be supportive and understand them having a father's important, but I honestly don't think they want him. Again, they're both under 10 and young, and they simply don't fully understand. My oldest asked me on the ride home if they could ever go back. When I explained that we're both his parent, and we love them, and want to spend equal time with them, both children protested. I think my soon-to-be ex realizes this is a little too late. He's regretful. I don't know how to make this situation easier for everyone, but honestly, It's not my problem to solve. I asked him to take a 35-65 split, but he rejected it, saying it wasn't enough time with the children. My suggestion of the split wasn't about me wanting more time, it was about what I thought our children could handle. He just wanted to win and get me to convert to the 50-50. Well, you won, buddy. Here it is. How's that working out for ya? Maybe if you would have thought about what was best for them and not, quote, defeating me, maybe this would have ended differently. Next update. Get the papers. The papers. I'm officially in the court system with a docket number and everything. It's on its way to becoming official and I'm elated. My soon-to-be ex does not seem that excited. This past weekend, he flew out to her state and attended a family wedding as her guest. I'm happy they're taking these steps as a couple because if they are happy, he'll move and the farther away he is better. When he returned, he was now excited about the divorce, asking me when the lawyer would send him the paperwork to sign and what the timeline was moving forward. He was on cloud 9 after his vacation and wished to hurry the process up. The day he was having his share of paperwork notarized was also the day I was going to pick up the children from him. When I got there, he was short with me. I could tell he was on the verge of a panic attack. He hurried us away and then texted me later explaining he in fact was in the beginning stages of a panic attack. But why? So, he told me he was feeling overwhelmed because the kids, work, managing a household, and maintaining a social life, he just felt burnt out. Wow, this sounds oddly familiar. This was my story for the past decade. The reason I did not go on date nights as often as he liked was for this exact reason. Part of me felt bad because I know what the feeling's like. But another part of me relished in the thoughts of his struggles and coming to the realization that was my life and reason for his cheating. So how should I react? After I took a second to think, I blurted, "Wow, that sucks. I'm taking the kids to the beach this weekend. See you Monday morning when you pick them up. Peace." I decided to give him support he gave me for 10 years. Update. D-Day. Sunday, it's happening. The day I've been waiting for and he's been dreading. I'm going to meet the girlfriend. I'm honestly excited. He, on the other hand, is in a panic and I understand why. I exploded on that woman on the phone and said some terrible things. And also, I understand it's going to be hard for him to hide his lies about me being insane when we're face to face. He texted me a few days ago and told me that he would be picking the boys up on Father's Day to head down to the shore with them, and she would accompany them. When they come back to pick up the boys, we can have our little chat. I'm fine with that. I'm actually relieved he wasn't planning on taking the boys to the shore alone. I don't think he can handle them both on the boardwalk or in the arcades. He's very worried that I'm going to cause a scene when I meet her. It's actually the exact opposite. I plan on just being myself. Very friendly and welcoming, and I need her to see that I'm not the emotional woman that I was on the phone and in my letter. I mentioned to him via text that I would not jeopardize the good relationship he and I had recently with each other and co-parenting by being mean to her. His exact words, "I don't need you to speak about what you and I have." But why? Why wouldn't the fact that we're getting along and cooperating be something she shouldn't know? And then I remembered. He lies. He must be telling her I'm impossible, that I'm a terrible human being, that I'm difficult and unreasonable. How can he make this lie hold water if I'm polite and friendly to her and him? The boys have each made something for him, and I got small gifts from the boys to give to him. We'll present him with those things in front of her. I feel like if I saw someone who was supposed to be, quote, cruel and insane do that to their enemy, I'd have questions as well. Also, I plan on packing snacks for the boys and him for the trip. This is something I do whether she was there or not. Are those the acts of crazy and hateful person? I think not. Lastly, and some of you may not agree with this, I'm going to apologize for how I spoke to her. I know she was wrong for what she did, and she's never apologized to me. But if she did, I'd listen. but I'm not proud of how I spoke to her on the phone that day. That was the worst side of me, and she saw it. I think she understands my actions, but my apology is not to get on her good side. I want to be the bigger person. I don't plan on ever being friends with this woman, but she'll be left alone with my children at some point, so I'm doing this for them. Also, my selfish motive. If she's happy and feels comfortable with my soon-to-be ex, she'll want him to move out of state with her. I want this so bad. So I won't do anything to jeopardize this move. I'll update you on Sunday evening with a play-by-play of our meeting. Update: my strange meet cute. Since my last post, my head has been swimming. I spent so many months envisioning this moment, and now it's here, and all the scenarios I've run through my head seem like cheesy movie scenes. None of it's plausible. I finally decided yesterday to not go into this meetup trying to prove who I am to someone, but more so just be myself and stop worrying about the impression that I leave on her. She has an opinion of me that is clouded by his lies, so there's no sense trying to change her mind. So I asked myself, who am I? And then I remembered that day, this whole fiasco. I was the person who killed with kindness. While that kindness was manipulated by my soon-to-be ex, I was the one who was in control now. So I did what I thought was right. My children made Father Day cards for him, and then I had them make cards for her. I had them introduce themselves, a list, a couple things they'd like to do with her. They drew pictures and colored, and all was right in the world. Kill them with kindness. So, I texted him last night what time was to pick up. He was at dinner and said he would text me back when they were done. I woke up at 6:30 with no text message from him. So, I texted him at 6:30, 7:30, 8, and finally received word back from him just before 9. I'll be there in an hour. Okay, now that that's settled, what do I wear? I opted for the true to myself outing. Leggings, flip-flops, and a cute over-the-shoulder shirt. Very me. Hair curly, makeup light, but with a gorgeous amount of mascara. It was now 9:40, so we sat and waited. The boys grew antsy. At 10:30, I got a text that his stomach's upset, and they're running a little late. Sounds like a case of the nerves to me. Then, at just before 11, they arrive. I assembled the boys and the gifts, and we come outside. There she is. Right there, standing on my steps. For a hot second, I raged inside. I wanted to say something smart like, "You left me for this?" I looked over at him, and the look of panic and tension on his face told me that by doing that, I'd be the monster he's fictitiously talked about. So I went back to my motto of kindness, extended my hand, smiled warmly, and introduced myself. She was shocked. Where's this lunatic I've heard so much of? Why isn't she trying to claw my eyes out? I can only imagine what was running through her mind. The boys presented their gifts to the dad and then gave her the card. Shock took over her face once more. Cards that aren't death threats? How? Why? At this point, her mood went from fear to pure embarrassment. I must say it was more delicious to watch that shift than it was to politely pull her hair out. We hustled the boys into the car, and as my soon-to-be ex walked to the other side of the car to get them in, I turned to her. Shock and fear had returned to her face. She had difficulty making eye contact with me just looking at the floor. I could hear my soon-to-be ex heart beating from 10 feet away. I looked at her and said this. "Hey, I just want to apologize for how I first spoke to you. It was an emotional wreck, but I said some terrible things, and that was very unlike me. I know my actions were justified, but my reflecting back on that day, I'm unhappy with how I acted towards you." "Hello, Shock. Have you met our friend, Guilt?" A wave of guilt took over her as she bumbled through her own half-butted apology. She could not say the word affair. Instead, she said, "What happened? Own it, girl. Just own it." But she did end her nonsensical word vomit, wishing to have a conversation with me about what transpired. I used the word transpired. Most of her words were less than 2 syllables. My soon-to-be ex had started to look relieved. now tensed at the idea of her and I having a chit-chat. I've already promised myself I won't speak badly to him to her. Maybe I'll just give her a link to this thread instead. Now, I look forward to her spending 48 hours with him and our kids. Now she can see the short temper and lack of patience he truly has. It's going to be a very hard time for him to keep up his Father of the Year act. I'm sure my children will give me a play-by-play of how their visit went. I'll update you all on Wednesday when the children have returned. Thank you all again for supporting me on this journey. Today was a big day, but I'm proud of my growth. Part of that growth is from support I've received from you all. So many thank yous. Okay, so I read into one comment that is pretty, well, has a lot of replies and comments. Here it is. Honestly, OP needs to go to therapy too. She's mentally exhausted by taking care of 2 children for 9 years, and this affair adds to it. Her husband, well, he's a piece of crap, and I don't particularly like the mistress as well. She also needs to realize that children are not stupid. They know what's going on at home, even at a young age. They know who's the more involved parent, and having them be involved with their piece of crap of an ignorant father won't do them any good. They will be used to this emotional abuse as well. She needs to keep her foot down on this, and if he still wants 50-50 custody, she can just record and document his behavior when he's with the kids and send it to the lawyer. I'm sure that'll help at least a little. So guys, let me know what you would do. You're stuck in this awful predicament, and you're in OP's shoes. Tell me in the comment section exactly how you would go about handling this. Guys, if you want to see part 3, make sure you subscribe to the channel with bell notifications on because that story's dropping tomorrow.